Mission to Color is the 1957 classic novel written by legendary Cameroonian author Mongo Beti. I called it "Duh" because that book is totally awesome and really funny. This is one book that is very popular with a lot of high school students for obvious reasons. Wink, wink. So, despite its common main depressing theme of African cultural colonization in the 20th century, unlike most of its other contemporaries that are, of course, depressing, gloomy, and even angry in their portrayals, like grumpy old Hugh Jackman in Logan, the book is more like Deadpool, in the sense that it's light-hearted, self-aware, crude, edgy comedy and satire that clearly pokes fun at the irrelevance of French values in Cameroonian society. There are so many hilarious but still very meaningful circumstances in this book, both hidden and much more nuanced tropes. So, today we welcome you to this new special edition of BBC Africa as we explore, dissect, divide, and the clever satirical themes and devices it holds. It's BBC Africa's special analysis of Mission to Color and its comedy and satire. So, Mission to Color begins with its main protagonist known as Jean-Marie Meza as he embarks on a mission to the village to retrieve the wife of his cousin Niam. If you have not read the book, we encourage you to watch this doodle summary we recently did and then come back to this analysis for better understanding. So, the book was written and set in the context of French Cameroonian occupation of their educational system in the 1950s, where all Cameroonians, especially the children, were forced to learn French to one day become vanguard leaders on their fellow native people, which is of course just a very polite way to say that they were being groomed to become European puppets. A representation of this young vanguard leader is the protagonist of the novel known as Jean-Marie Meza, who is a very young French-educated teenager who comes to Color to solve a family crisis by retrieving his cousin Niam's wife. That's why the name Mission to Color. However, much of Meza's mission to Color for the majority of the novel becomes a lot less about looking for Niam's wife and more about exploring the carefree village life. Whoa, that totally rhymed, I know. The book is brilliant at how it hilariously deals with the theme of colonization, immorality, freedom, capitalism, religion, marriage, sex, and so much more. One of the greatest themes in this book comes in the form of perception versus reality. The biggest example being, of course, the stark contrast of how Meza perceives himself versus how the village of Color perceives Meza. It is a contrast between these perceptions and who Meza actually is where Mission Color first shines with its satirical humor. There is so many hilarious, ironic circumstances that are generated by this dichotomy. For example, Meza's father perceives that his son is a failure for failing his French exams and wishes to knock his lights out. But in Color, Meza is treated far from being a failure. In the village of Color, Jean-Marie Meza is the man, like Rambo or Rocky
or Aloe Black. Damn, I love that song. The man.
Because the village perceives him to be a winner for even making it that far to the French school in the first place. To Color, the idea he once went for European education and even brush shoulders with the white men is enough to them to earn their overwhelming respect. As an old man who questioned him during one of their meetings, referring to the knowledge they seek from him, "Listen, it does not matter if you do not understand. Tell us the same. For you, whites are you people, the people who matter. For us, you are the white man." This on its own shows the real-life high regard of black nations towards their colonial masters, and putting this culture on such a high pedestal also puts French educational system to be mocked, because as you know, what goes up must come down. The book pokes fun at Meza's shortcomings as a man and his innocence, and in turn it pokes fun at French values because they are the ones who have been grooming him all this time before he came to the village. However, it does not seem that way on the outside. That is why Mongo Beti gives us a first place narrative through Meza to really see the ironic difference between what Meza is seen as a confident, ultra macho, sophisticated, all-knowing sex god and what he really is, which is an innocent, self-doubting, introverted little
who just happened to attend French school.
Seeing himself the way he sees himself, Medza is of course baffled by this exalted treatment, but instead of correcting them, he plays along to the facade because he's just too scared to disappoint them. But to be honest, nothing would have changed their minds anyway, as the Kalans are just in too deep with their belief that the white man is better in every way possible, or at least a representation of the white man is better in any way possible. Like all great works of satire, certain situations are exaggerated beyond life for the audience and reader to see the shortcomings of the targeted subject or beliefs. In Mission to Color, this comes in the form of them believing Medza as having wisdom of someone who has lived and walked on this earth for over 5,000 years with a long beard and drank herbal tea with Buddha himself. Okay, that last part is kind of exaggerating, but you see, that's what I mean. That's what we call great satire.
The point is,
Medza may know some things, but he doesn't know nearly as much as the people think he does. As he confessed secretly to himself in this line, I had already discovered the vast gaps in the frontiers of my tiny kingdom. Now I was desperately trying to plug these gaps and start straining my imagination to the utmost in the process. When he arrives in Color, Medza, I guess like the French themselves, Medza has a single story that assumes that the village natives are simple-minded dimwits. But upon his arrival, the protagonist receives another thing coming. The Kalans are much more clever and more calculating than they are given credit for, even seeming to be ignorant to their own intelligence at times. They may not always be ethical, but they are sharp. They may be naive, of course, but they're not dumb. Because the people of color are more street smart than book smart, and they are brilliant when it comes to thinking on their feet and taking advantage of situations as they come in real time. And Medza is always left baffled by their opportunistic ways. One of the strongest examples of this is his uncle Mama taking advantage of the village perception of Medza. He sees the opportunity in the village intrigue of the boy and brilliantly takes advantage of it for monetary gain, like a wolf. You know, just like Jordan Belfort and the Wolf of Wall Street. He monetizes it by charging rich villagers who want a piece of Medza's sacred wisdom and presence of the white man, which works and draws a lot of wealth, rams, chickens, goats, and a lot of prestige to his family. And seriously, as an entrepreneur, I really was impressed with this guy. The way he negotiated and kind of persuaded all the people around him to okay, that was just real. Particularly when he further exploits the cultural norms about blood relations to hoodwink Medza into ceding part of his loot on the premise of the kingship. He sweet talks his nephew into giving him a share of his wealth as it comes in. And of course, like every Wolf of Wall Street corrupt stockbroker, that silver-tongued devil gets rich off the commission while the clients basically pay their money for a bunch of information they will probably never use. Uncle Mama is not the only opportunist in the village. Many other Kalans exploit culture and religion too for personal gain. In Kala, women are only background and one-dimensional characters. They only seem to be tools utilized for sex and status. Like Marvin Gaye sings in Sexual Healing, that's all they're good for. Get up, get up, get up. There's Zambo and his live-in girlfriends, and perhaps the most unexpected example, Edma's mother, the queen, who comes initially apparently livid that her young virgin daughter has been sleeping around unmarried with Medza. When she catches them in the act, she screams and causes a huge scene to disgrace them in front of the public's shocked eyes as the reasonably morally upright mother she is. But little do we know, as we eventually learn, that it was all an intentionally staged act meant to publicize his relationship with Edma and entrap Medza to marry her daughter, kinda like what they did with Mr. Bizwas in A House for Mr. Bizwas with Shama. Although I have to admit with Mr. Bizwas, it was a little more mature and a little less humiliating. Like I said, it's a village full of ruthless opportunists. Section C, the satirization of Christianity. The book is also notorious for its bold satirical mockery of Christianity. Zambo's friends despite their names and proclaimed allegiance to the religion, mock its values like all the time. We have Zambo himself, Petra, son of God, Darkfoot Johnny and Boneless Wonder. It's very likely all of them are not virgins. Son of God, whose very name is blasphemous towards Jesus and Christianity itself, especially when he considers how that he does. He is only the Son of God almost to merely mock the religion. In irony, they conveniently ignored certain parts of the Bible and go on their merry way to the fine land of sexual and alcoholic exploitation and immorality, which is another major recurring theme in the book. Darkfoot Johnny calls himself Saint John of Color, who owns the so-called living fountain.
And if you must know,
there is nothing holy about this so-called living fountain, which in actual fact is just his personal wine cachet you can get drunk with. An indirect poke at the hypocrisy of the missionaries who paid their native laborers with whiskey, yet the Bible supposedly condemns the use of alcohol. Or does it? Darkfoot Johnny uses Bible tropes to form his own knockoff religion of the Saint John of Color, which only consists of 2 basic commandments, which of course support their own unhinged ways. The verses are, when you are thirsty, drink anything except water, and never forgo any occasion for making love, whatever time of the day it may be. How convenient, right? And this is something many church denominations often do. They read into certain verses while pushing the rest that don't support what they already believe aside. And the Bible is quite big too, so you can literally find a verse that can even excuse murder itself. Just like how the Europeans did so themselves, who used the Bible in the times of slavery, when they literally ignored the golden rule of the Bible, which is treat others the way you would like to be treated,
in favor of more convenient verses like this.
And the Lord said, the fear of ye and the dread of ye shall be on every beast of the earth.
And that servant which knew his Lord's will and prepared not himself, neither did according to his will, shall be beaten with many stripes. That nigga that don't obey his Lord, that's his master, do you see? That there nigga shall be beaten with many stripes. That's scripture.
I know, as compared to those guys, what the currents do with the Bible suddenly seems like peanuts, doesn't it? You see, selective reading of the Bible is nothing new, boo-boo. According to Zimbabwean book critic Elliot Zibira of Herald in 2014, the colonists do not only indulge in sexual escapades, but they imbibe in palm wine daily and do not seem to do anything else.
Which is true.
The people of color know a whole lot about sex. There is sex all over the place. They have sex outside marriage, such as with Zambo, who lives with his girlfriend at his parents' home and yet still sleeps around with other girls as without paying a cent to the prospect of marriage. However, the world of sex is another world that is totally unfamiliar to Medza. He even admits to himself that he is afraid of women in general. This is again a device Mongo Beti uses to mock Medza. Since the village perceives that he is the all-knowing great one, they believe he is this exotic mystic sex god who has embarked on countless iconic bedroom escapades. Yet Medza is only a squeaky clean little virgin. And a lot of Duba is generated by this irony, of course, as you can imagine. However, Zambo, his sweet, loving, gentle giant of a cousin who really trusts Medza and looks up to him, metaphorically, I mean, of course, he can't picture his young cousin lying to him, so he tries to find him a girl that fits his status pronto. As Zambo is relentless in his self-imposed mission to find him a girl to spend the night with, Medza is only put under intense pressure by the seemingly noble gesture because he knows how it will look if the village was to find this out. So he has to learn on the job while somehow keeping his sexual inexperience a secret. As the reader, it is the knowledge of this ironic fact that makes his first opportunity to have sex in color all the more awkward and hilariously entertaining. as we get to hear every single anxious thought that goes through his head at that moment. With a girl called Eliza, who is literally left on his bed in the morning, for example. The beautiful city girl who is the it girl of the village.
Like Gossip Girl.
Desired by most men in the village, Eliza stares at him while expecting to receive the greatest shagging in her lifetime. Don't mean to rip off Austin Powers here. This is where again the first person narrative device Mongo Beti uses is effective. Hearing Medza's actual thoughts as he feels like he is a mouse in a corner describing how petrified he is by this event. It tells us as he tries to launch but fails. I decided I ought to kiss her, but remained where I was, immovable, and begins to play all these catastrophic versions of how it may play out if he fails to, quote, satisfy her. I felt an important resignation, he says in humiliation. This encounter only amounted to a brutal awkward silences between the two and irrelevant questions of trying to avoid the elephant in the room that Medza has failed to act on this sexual prowess. To be fair to Medza, come on, let's face it, all men have had this kind of anxiety at least once in their life. It's hard out here for a pimp, I tell ya. So after Medza chickens out on Eliza because of his own insecurities, he does something any other wise man would do, wants to protect his name. He lies to Zambo that the city girl has venereal diseases, which of course makes it a fault. Because as you all know, the great one can do no wrong. But us as the reader, we still know what really happened, right? But he knows lying is only a temporary solution to a reoccurring problem. Like painkillers, you can only take them for so long before you have to address the true root of the issue. So he turns to the one other thing all other great French philosophers have turned to in times like this. Philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre. And I know he did not just say therapy. No, it's not therapy. Therapy is for sissies. He turns to alcohol, beer, whiskey. Fortunately for Medza, there is this funny little thing called alcohol in existence that becomes his saving grace. Alcohol as your saving grace. I almost sound like Darkwood Johnny there. So blasphemous.
The main reason I husbanded my whiskey was this. If Zambo brought me another experienced woman, I want to give myself a little Dutch courage.
Yes, it's that Dutch courage he uses to find his confidence on the bottom of the bottle when it's time to release his sexual hounds to protect his name. He successfully manages to lose his virginity undetected because of it. He takes advantage of the fact that it's already a village of heavy drinkers to begin with, so they can't sport his over-reliance for confidence on it, which is why we truly believe this book is a glorified love letter to the legendary man who invented this little thing we call alcohol. Yeah, for sure. In conclusion, Mission to Color teaches us that if you want to deal with your problems, you turn to Dutch courage and watch those damn things just disappear. Another lesser known valuable lesson, colonization aside, you have never heard in the classroom is that life is all about perception, like they did with Medza. You may think that you ain't much, but who knows, you may just be rocking with the wrong people at the wrong place and at the wrong time. People who can never see your real value no matter how much you try. The good thing about life is that there will always be people who think that you are the man, even without having to resort to pretending like Medza did in the book. So yeah, there you have it, folks. Till next time, when we delve into another piece of classic African literature. Catch you next time, and as always guys, thanks for watching Mimsy Africa. Hi guys, thanks for watching the video, and as always I hope you got enlightened. You know, here at Mimsy Africa we also offer graphic designing and video editing services to anyone around the world through Remit. The prices are quite reasonable, of course, so if you have a YouTube channel, video, blog, or social media business that may require quality visuals that really make a statement and really engage your audience, hit us up either here in the comment section or at our Instagram inbox and we can make arrangements there. The link is in the bio. And as always folks, thanks for watching Mimsy Africa.